Today I'm gonna show you guys how to make this using this while only wasting this much tube and saving you a lot of time and money. These are all the pieces that come with the 911 tube jig kit. It looks like there might be a lot, but you have every piece you could possibly need to create whatever bend you want, at whatever angle, and whatever cope you need. So it comes with some straight tube pieces of varying lengths. You also have a really long one, so depending on what kind of tube you need to make, you can attach whatever cope you want at the end. Let's say I want a 70-degree cope. You slide it in, tighten it. You can fit it on whatever piece you're trying to put on the truck and see how you like it. There are some pieces that have a little elbow bend, so you can make it whatever you want. So everything is here. You can map it out using these pieces, and then you can make exact cuts on a real piece of tube and burn it in. So now we've mocked up where this tube is gonna go. We wanted to do some bracing against the frame up here where the fender is, coming down to this tube where the sway bar is, just to give it a little bit more structure. There's gotta be one bend in here and then a couple different copes that are a little bit offset. So it would be really hard to do this without the tube jig. This one at a time. So here we put the tube with the elbow joint so we can see where the angle is. And then we added, right here we have a 0-degree cope, and up here we have a 20-degree cope hitting the fender tube. This kit obviously makes it really easy to map this out, figure out what we want, how we want it to look, where it's gonna land, what kind of bend we need. And now we can take this piece over to the tube bender and the notcher and recreate this exact tube without making any errors.
One thing I see people get confused by with this kit is there's only one spot that it bends. But when you bend a tube around a die, it has a radius to it, and so it gets this nice curve shape. You can't go too tight with this curve shape because the tube will begin to kink, and then that creates a failure point. So there's a certain amount of deformation that you're allowed in a bend in order to meet like your roll cage specs. The thing I see people get confused about is how you make this turn into this. But the beauty of this is that it doesn't actually matter the radius of your die, because all of your measurements that you're taking for this bend come off your die. So this works for any die you would use ever. So let's actually make this piece. The first step when making this tube is you gotta figure out what angle this bend actually needs to be. So we're gonna use one of these little straight edge angle dealies for it.
So we have about 27 degrees. What we need to do is also measure the distance from the center of the bend to the start of the cope. And we're probably gonna add about a 1/2 inch for the cope to the tube, knowing that it takes about a 1/2 inch to get this tube notched the way that we need to. So from the center of this bend to the start of this cope, we have 9 inches. So we're gonna write 9.5 on this arm. We're gonna do it again on this one. So, center of the bend to the start of the cope, and then we'll add a 1/2 inch. So we got about 7 inches on this one. So we're gonna put 7.5 over here. Now just remember, this arm, the 9.5 one, is the one that has to have the 0-degree cope. And this one has a 20-degree cope. Next, what we're gonna do is find out how much of the tube is being used up in the bend. And we take this 27 degrees that we just measured out on our tube, hold it up against the die, and we mark out where each of the arms touch the die. So if you take a look here, it looks like this one touches right about there. And this one touches right about here. Okay, next we need to measure the distance from the center of the bend to the marks we just made on the die to find out how much of the tube is being taken up in the bend. So, using a flat surface that I can measure with, it looks like this one is 1 5/8 inches. Let's just make sure that this one is the same. They should both be the same. So here we have another 1 5/8 inches. So on our die, we know that there's 3.5 inches from the start of the bend to the edge of the clamp. So now we know how far in we need to put this tube and where to start bending. We have one arm that's 9.5 inches, one arm that's 7.5 inches. So we'll cut a piece of tube that's 17 inches and then we'll bend it at a 27-degree angle. Well, fuck. Okay.
Perfect. There's some ugly looking welds right there. I bet you did those.
Hey, what the fuck?
Look, they don't even connect. Embarrassing.
Fucking embarrassing.
It's fucking embarrassing.
Perfect. Cut it right there.
So what are we doing? What are we doing for puppies? Okay. All right. What are you doing?
I'm gonna cut this piece.
Cool.
17 inches and get rid of all those ugly welds you did.
Babe, shut the fuck up. Those are totally yours. Oh my god.
No one believes that.
No, everybody does.
Are you ready?
I'm always ready.
Here we go. This is it. I've marked out one of these legs is 9.5 inches, which puts 9.5 inches as the center of the bend. So that's that mark right here. So what we're gonna be able to do is put this tube into the die this way so that there's enough tube to make the actual bend, and on this side, the clamp is gonna go on. So what I need to do on this side is mark where the clamp goes. And remember, we marked out 1 5/8 inches from the center is the start of the bend. And we also know that 3.5 inches from there is the start of the clamp. So I'm gonna mark 3.5 plus 1 5/8. Whatever that is.
5 1/8.
Thank you. This is the center of the bend. This is the start of the bend. And this is where the clamp goes. So we're ready to start bending this tube. What we're gonna do is we're gonna turn it on, and this is all this play is gonna tighten out and get real snug. And then once we're at that point, we can zero this thing, and then we can bend this until it gets to 27. Now that's not true. There is some spring back in this, so we'll probably make it go to about 30 and check it, because once you release it, sometimes it goes back a little bit. All right, I'm gonna tighten it into the die. Tighten the clamp on. Then we gotta hook this up to the air compressor and zero this guy. So I've loosened the bender. I'm pushing this all the way up on the follower. So I hold it tight, and I can see that right now it's showing probably about 26 degrees. I'm gonna double check on this guy again and kind of eyeball it. It looks pretty close. Bird. It looks like it lines up perfectly. The tube meets these arms perfectly flat, so we've got the right bend and the right angle. Next up, notches.
Just going to kind of eyeball and transfer this line of the beginning of the notch onto the tube from here. So it's actually pretty easy. This 20 is gonna be a little shallow, but that doesn't really matter that much. And then I'll go in here and I will mark the 0 where it starts. When you're notching a 0, it doesn't matter which end starts first, but when you're notching a 20-degree notch, the notch has to go into the actual notcher like this. This is great because it's enough of a bend that this tube lays flat. So you can reference it with this tube laying flat to actually figure out what degree this needs to be notched at. So I'm gonna get one of those little magnet things and show you guys how to do that. These are nice because they have the little spot that shows you exactly where the middle is. So I've put their magnetic little pointy angle finder bracket gauge thingy on, and I've pointed it at where the neutral part of the cope is. I've zeroed it, and now all I have to do is take this, put it on this piece in the same exact orientation, and then mark where it points it out to. So now all I'm doing is I'm transferring this mark, that's the actual neutral point of this cope that tells you what degree of rotation it has, onto this tube. Then I'm also going to take the depth mark that we made earlier, and I'm just gonna continue it. Kinda doesn't have to be super accurate. Obviously it has to be more accurate than that, that's pretty bad. So now you have an awesome indication.
This is good!
Of, hey, where does this notch start like that? And then how far in and out does it have to be? So we'll do the same on the other side. Take that, you take this whole freaking thing, and you can just swing it right around. Same exact thing as before. That goes on there. Put it on. Make sure this is laying flat. Zero it, and then transfer it over to here. Now it's literally as easy as just putting it in the notcher, and then our tube is completely done. So now we've got our marks. This is our like center mark that we're gonna base off this, and then this is our depth mark. So just go in, kind of set it up. If you're worried that you messed any of this up, it's super easy to just set it down and reference it, and you can see, oh, I got my zeros there. You got the 20s there, they're offset. This angle matches. These copes look really good. This one I would like a little more. Typically I'll leave a 1/2 inch. The rule of thumb is that you wanna leave 1/3 the diameter of the tubing on the end to make any cope that's under 45 degrees. At 45 degrees, you can just make them kind of flat with it. But see, like with the 20, you kind of get away with it a bit more. We have replicated this tube with the exact angle, the exact copes, at the exact distance that we wanted it to be. Everything matches up perfect. And this is exactly how much steel we've wasted. That much. Can you imagine how long doing 2 offset bends would take if you didn't have this kit? Now, for the real fun, let's go and test fit it and see if we messed it up.
The big moment. We put the tube we just bent and notched exactly where we want it, and it fits perfect. It lines up right, the copes are right, it lands exactly where we want it to. It's gonna brace the sway bar, and it will force all the force up into the cage. So it does exactly what we want, it landed exactly where we wanted. Minimal waste, minimal time wasted.
We are not sponsored, endorsed, or anything with 911 Motorsports. I just really like their tube jig, and I'm hoping you guys can maybe get some use out of it too. It's definitely saved us way more money than it costs. It comes with all the things pictured here. There's a bit of a learning curve to it, but once you get it, it saves you so much time and money. I mean, this is all the steel left over from that. We both want to say thank you so much for watching the video this whole way. Please let us know what you think in the comments. Hit that subscribe button, it really helps our channel. And here's a little sneak peek of what you're missing if you haven't checked out our other videos. I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of the last straw for this fucking truck. We take tune-up while you drive to an extreme that it probably shouldn't be taken to.
Yeah, it's ripped. The frame is so thin there.
It's just hanging here.
Huh? It's pretty good. We're only averaging a breakdown every 2 miles. As long as I don't roll like this. I don't even know if it can stop. A little stuck up ahead. Fits in into the center. I'm just gonna pour this whole thing in. I'm not even gonna read the directions. That sucks. I'm building a new truck. Can't do this anymore. This is cool though.